Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Yeah, so like I was saying, man, there's this sort of talk about this movie today here at the failed superhero blockbusters, Blade Trinity. We're here to talk about Blade Trinity, and it sort of has this reputation, and a lot of people don't like this movie, and so going into it today, me as the host, Diego Crespo, you as my co-host, Matt Garingo, I wanted to make sure this movie got a fair, run up to the bat. I want to give it a fair shot. And sometimes that's a little difficult when people in this movie have been in recent movies that annoyed you. Do you find it difficult to put aside personal biases when you're watching a movie? I guess that's my first question today. I didn't tee you up for this at all, but I am genuinely thinking about this. This is not a bit at this point.
Well, Triple H is in this movie, and he's been making some waves lately.
The entire wrestling organization is on the press tour of a lifetime.
Yeah, and it's going
now. It's a bad lifetime.
It's going really
but it is
well.
A lifetime.
Very well received. Very well received by wrestling fans everywhere.
Yep. It sure is.
You know what audience is really going to overlap with the current state of wrestling? Right-wing UFC fans. I can't think of a better overlap. People who like people who like real fighting and real violence. They're gonna like all this weird storyline choreographed shit.
All right, Blade Trinity.
God,
okay. So, do we talk about our response to the first two films?
Well, here's something.
Because I think everyone likes those.
First of all, we should let people know we are banking a few episodes for this series. We're recording this a little earlier than I think it's getting released. I don't actually know what order it's coming. We just did the Daredevil episode, correct? But I don't know if that's going to come out after or before this. But just
no, it'll come out before.
Okay, but just to date when we are Fulgur Ovid, VTuber, just announced that he was graduating from Ninja Sanji.
These fucking updates. The decline of the American Empire and VTubing are correlating to each other.
Bit of an exodus in the corporate VTuber space recently. I'm not sure if there's a correlation, but and Sinners just came out.
Yes, Sinners.
I guess that's more relevant.
We'll definitely talk about. Yeah.
Is there a vampire VTuber? I'm sure there is, but there's gotta be. There's gotta be like a dozen that I just don't know about.
I mean, wasn't your boy a vampire?
Well, no, that's what I thought. When I first saw Vox Machina, I thought he was a vampire because he was all pale and shit, but then it turned out he was a demon.
Okay. Yeah. A simple mistake to make.
A lot of them look like vampires, and then they're like demon or something.
Well, there's something about the vampiric characterization throughout history. There's a seductive, sexy nature to it, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe they just kind of co-opt the aesthetics of vampirism for demons.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? I do think it's funny that Alucard, the character, is a totally original character for Son of Dracula, where he's played by Lon Chaney Jr. And now he's most often portrayed as a pale anime boy. Which Lon Chaney Jr. very much was not. For those who don't know Lon Chaney Jr.'s body of work.
No. No. All right.
Relevant to today's discussion, the son of Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about this movie, or do you want to bring up the other two, or hold them off for a little bit?
It doesn't fucking matter. Well,
Yeah.
we got it.
All
We're
right.
here to talk about
Let's.
Blade, obviously. So we're going to talk about all of the Blade stuff. Like,
Yeah, but like specifically Blade Trinity, because this is the failed blockbusters, and this movie did break even, but like just barely.
yeah,
And everyone hated it, including people who worked on it at the
it
time.
was a.
I remember watching it at the time, like on DVD,
Mhm.
and being like, that sucked.
Mm,
like, like this is one of the first movies I straight up like did not enjoy
yeah.
all the way through. Like, wasn't disappointed. Like Hidalgo, which is the first movie I remember watching in theaters, being like, that was okay. Blade Trinity straight up like was ass.
Well,
Like this is.
I think we discussed that on the Daredevil episode. And I talked about like Daredevil and Cheaper by the Dozen being two of the earliest movies that I remember being like, oh, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And Cheaper by the Dozen, we got a Sean Levy connection there. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
uh, I guess since we both apparently watched this on DVD, I'm trying to remember if I saw this in theaters. Because the first R-rated movie I see in theaters is Matrix Reloaded, and so like after that, there was kind of a like you can go see R-rated movies. Although is the theatrical cut of this PG-13? Like did they?
No, no.
Okay,
This was always R.
okay, because there's an unrated cut,
Yeah.
which I don't
I
have.
think that this is one of the ones. This is one of those famous movies they did try to dial down to get more money,
Mm,
though, because
yeah,
that's how people think.
yeah. Um, but I guess if we both saw this like sometime around its release, we must have both been Blade fans.
Yes. Oh, I have a fun story about this actually.
Oh.
So, because Mexican family parties, when you're a kid, the kids are often either taken to the dance floor, everyone's dancing together, or it's late and the adults are all getting drunk, and then the kids are shuffled off to watch a movie together,
Yeah,
right?
I think we talked. I
So
think
my older
we talked about
cousins,
this on. We maybe had this exact discussion on the Daredevil episode.
oh, that I saw Blade 2
No, that you
way too like.
that something you did this story about the kids shuffling off to watch a movie, which is uh inherently. I will say I will to defend the cultural osmosis, not a distinctly Mexican trait. Uh,
Yeah, maybe not, maybe not. Yeah. Well, Blade 2 is one of those movies, and I hadn't seen the first Blade at the time, and then I remember vividly being like scared when one of the mutated vampires in those movies gets like cut in half and then wall crawls backwards up into like shadows,
mhm.
and then one of my distant relatives was like, "Oh my god, that's his dick," and I was just like, "This is not language I used a lot at the time, and images I hadn't seen a lot of the time." So it was very much a system shock for young Diego watching that one. But I always liked Blade 2 regardless, and I still think that movie's fucking
I feel like
rips.
a lot of people's introduction to Blade was Blade 2, which is interesting. Um,
Yeah, it's much meaner than the first film.
yeah, it's meaner. Well, yeah, I gotta be honest, the first Blade is pretty mean. Um, but it does feel like I kind of love I think the first Blade's kind of a great movie. Um, I,
I think they're both great. I think now that I'm older, I definitely appreciate the first Blade more than I did at the time. I do think that that might edge out the second one for me. Um, what that movie's operating in with like some tropes of like it's basically like a black exploitation film with like a proper budget and not just for the sake of like regurgitating black exploitation stuff
yeah,
with vampires and stuff. Like there's genuine ideas and great filmmaking in that movie. And like the one thing is like, yeah, the CG is probably a little too early, but now it's kind of like got this great charm,
yeah,
to
but who
it.
gives a shit about that?
Um yeah, I don't care. That's not a
But
negative for
Blade.
me. I really love
Speaking
that
of
first
Blade,
one.
Blade feels like this weird like intersection of like a bunch of things going on, right? Like
Hmm.
that it's a mix of like martial arts and blaxploitation, which is one of those things that are like they've always kind of been like married genres in a way. But it feels
Yeah.
like this really good synthesis of it. It also feels like those two genres, like they're about to actually, it probably wouldn't fall under blaxploitation, but there was a sort of black action boom in the 90s that is probably peaking around the time of the first Blade. You could say it started with stuff like, like King of New York and New Jack City and stuff like that. And and I guess like Wu-Tang Clan probably feeds into that. Like I feel like there's like a bunch of stuff in the culture happening in the 90s that like feed into Blade, right? And
Hmm.
it feels like that's peaking, and what's about to kind of replace it is martial arts films breaking through to the mainstream, right? Like Blade
Right,
is
right,
one of
right.
those like just before the Matrix type movies, where like the Matrix is now like all of that is going to be mainstream. Like that's going to it's going to open the floodgates for not just martial arts films, but like a lot of Japanese Asian culture to break through the mainstream. And then the other intersection is, comic books. That it is people point out that it is technically it's not the first Marvel superhero adaptation, but it is the one that is probably most important for getting the Marvel empire as we know it now on its footing, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's probably most integral to that. But it's like again, it's like a second or two too early for you to go like we're going full comic book, right? Like is X-Men's the
Yeah.
next is 2 years after Blade, right? The first X-Men movie.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like and that's kind of the like, oh, okay, we're now at this moment culturally. Um, but it's interesting um when you put all those things in context. And then you jump to something like Blade Trinity, which what's kind of insane about this movie is it I don't want to say it feels
Just
dated.
say it.
No, I don't want to say it feels dated because it doesn't really feel like it belongs to any coherent time in the culture, right? Like in the way where
Hmm.
Blade feels like this, the first Blade feels like this perfect synthesis of like all this stuff going on at once. Blade Trinity feels like it belongs to no time. It's
I don't know if I fully agree with that. I think it has much more in common with the failures of modern franchise filmmaking. A little bit at least. There's the attempt at a spin-off, like a basically backdoor piloting another franchise with the Night Stalkers. We'll talk about some of the messy production history
yeah.
here because that's important. But let's not worry about that. Right, the movie
Here's a
as
question:
is, it is a backdoor pilot for the Night Stalkers. Right?
did that ever work?
No.
And that's like because that's crazy.
The closest you get,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. What would be the closest you get? Like, because look, here's the thing. It's like, sorry, this is Marvel specifically.
Mhm.
This is a Marvel adaptation specifically, so it's fine to bring up the MCU. I think here. Um, Even those characters, you know what's crazy? When they didn't backdoor pilot other franchises, their franchises worked on their own.
Yeah,
Like they didn't have to set up Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor.
yeah,
There's a post-credit scene, but that's not the same thing. And those characters aren't in the credit scene. Now it's like we're spinning off this character into a TV show, and then they're going to bounce back into a movie where these spin-off characters are going to team up. And it's like no one cares. But when it was like we're going to do Thor and Captain America back to back with no immediate plot
yeah. At
correlation,
most
not
Hawkeye,
huge hits, but successful.
yeah, at most Hawkeye is gonna pop up in Thor. Like that was like the most they did then, right? Like Hawkeye pops up in Thor
Mm-hmm.
and Black Widow pops up in Iron Man 2, right? Like that's about the
Yeah.
most they did. And then neither of those were teed up for immediate solo movies, right? Like, it was kind of
Yeah.
infamous in the terms
They
of
were
Black
teamed up
Widow.
for team up
Yeah, it was.
movies for
They were
the
teamed up
yeah.
for the Avengers. It was basically a way just to make sure they could have a large enough roster to justify an Avengers movie while producing as few films as possible. Like, that's really what it came down
Yeah.
to. Uh, but yeah, like that was about as deep as it went. And but I was thinking, like, in this era, this happened like a few times. The other time I think of this happening is they were so sure Halle Berry's character from Die Another Day would be popular enough to support an American spin-off of James Bond, right?
Hmm.
That, like, that was one of the things they were going to try and do with Die Another Day. And that didn't work either. Like, there's I can't think of all of them, but I hear of this all the time in this era where they were like, "Oh, we can totally spin that character off into their own movie," and it never works. Like, I can't think of a single thing.
Yeah.
Like, now it quote unquote works, as in the movies happen, but they're rarely good. It feels
Hmm.
like a lot of the movies that end up being spin-offs of other things are made out of a sense of obligation, right? That shareholders are like, if you do not make 7 spin-offs to this hit film, then, like, we're going to say that this is negligent to growing the portfolio of this company, right? And
Hmm.
like, that's what Ballerina kind of feels like, if I'm being honest. The upcoming
Yeah,
John
which
Wick
it's
spin-off.
yeah. Which, to be fair, it did start as, and then it didn't work, and now I've heard that it's actually quite good because they got Chad Stahelski to basically redirect the
It
movie.
turns out
So,
the director is
like,
very important.
yeah,
Who could have seen that coming? Um,
yeah.
but
So, like, at least it'll be like enjoyable, which I'm happy to hear.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I don't want a bad John Wick
No, neither
movie,
do
even
I. Neither
tangentially.
do I. But yeah, but it wasn't exactly like this. There was some writing on the
Yeah,
wall
no, yeah,
about that movie, um, in terms of its slow rollout. But
yeah,
and possibly the worst title of any movie coming out in the next year, which I'm sure will just fade over the years. Like, it's because it's the official title is like From the World of John Wick Ballerina, which is just
yeah. It's like
they get
just call it Ballerina.
yeah.
Don't fucking insult
That's
us.
one of the things. That's one of the worst things Rogue One did to the culture, is the Star Wars story. Like, that's where you need an insane person like George Lucas, who's like, you're gonna learn the word prequel. Like, George Lucas was like, I'm gonna make sure the culture knows what a prequel is by the time Phantom Menace comes out. I'm not moving. Because remember, they originally announced it and they were like, they're gonna be called the Star Wars anthology films. And you're like, that's kind of like, all
Hmm.
right, that fits. And then they were like, no, we're gonna call them a Star Wars story. And they won't have the title crawl for some reason, but then when we realized that was a mistake, we're gonna have to have something that's kind of like the title crawl, but not really. Uh, why would you give up one of the easiest narrative conceits of all time for your movie? But
Yeah, it's these fucking business people overthinking everything
yeah.
and like, look, sorry to make this about like fucking something completely unrelated, like the Last of Us adaptation, where it's clear these people are like scared of being possibly misunderstood, like they were like certain franchises were in their original iterations,
Mm.
and so they're just softballing everything, and it becomes safe and boring, and it becomes like, look, you understand that this is related to this franchise now, right? You understand this is Star Wars now, right? And it's like, people would have gotten it.
So you mean they're trying to make the
It's Star
Last of
Wars.
Us TV show like The Last of Us 2, the game?
Yeah, but they're like failing miserably, like they did the first time in the first season. I know people look back fondly on
Oh,
that.
they're failing miserably
They're wrong.
like the Last of Us franchise.
Look. The badness of the TV show made me appreciate those games so much more than I ever did before. And
Mm.
I never disliked them.
Oh, so you're
But I'm just
saying
like,
the badness of Blade Trinity made you appreciate Deadpool and Wolverine?
I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, but boy, I gotta say, I would be shocked if I disliked it as much as Blade Trinity. This is an awful
This
movie.
is pretty
This
bad.
this is pretty dog shit. Yeah.
This is a dire and desperate film.
Yeah. You can feel them grasping at straws at every single moment anyone's on screen. And it's look, this is a very played out criticism of bad performances, but it's true. Everyone in this is like in a different movie.
Yeah.
And none of them are in a good movie, but they're all in different bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put them all together, there should be at least a little bit of enjoyment from that badness, but there's not. Patton Oswalt's in this. Natasha Lyonne is in this. And it's such a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It is so fucking boring. There's nothing here. There is absolutely nothing here. Now, David Goyer's come up quite a bit in our conversations for failed blockbusters, which is unfortunate because I've always said I think he's a very good writer of structure and like overall story narrative. I think he can generally find good like propulsive engines for his stuff and everything. It's like the minutia of individual scenes he's not great at, and he's not a great dialogue guy. But he's got enough there where you can see how his stories could be functional. And they often are in the hands of other people, completely. This is like, there's just nothing. It's like, okay, Blade fights Dracula. I got that. Great. Great premise. And that's like it.
Well,
that's like the only thing the movie has.
But you know that was like basically a last minute addition to this movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is even more shocking.
Yeah. Like Blade versus Dracula. I guess here's the one thing. I didn't hate this when I was a kid, but basically it was one of those movies where like I watched it only once and then like had no desire to revisit it, right? There was no like burning urge to rewatch Blade Trinity as opposed to the other Blade films. But like Blade versus Dracula makes sense as like a kid comic book type thing. It doesn't feel like it makes sense for the tone that was established in the previous two Blade films. Not saying it's not a comic book thing, and it makes perfect sense for the comics because Blade's origins, as many know, is in the Tomb of Dracula comic, which does itself make a cameo in the film, which is the thing they keep doing, where there's like, oh, the comic exists in the universe. I guess that's cute. They do it in Hellboy too. So it's not like totally out of left field, but it's, yeah, it does feel very disconnected to the point where you can basically tell they were shooting a different movie and then Dracula at some point in the middle of production was added to this thing. Because he hit Dracula,
which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, but you can just feel how disconnected a lot of the Dracula stuff is from the main plot of the film, right? Like he shares so little screen time with anyone, frankly, that it's shocking. And part of that, for those who don't know, is that Wesley Snipes' life was basically falling apart while they were making this movie. And that translated into his behavior on set and did not help the film in any way. I don't know. I feel like there's been a reevaluation of what exactly happened here, but none of it, I don't know what is legit, right? Because I feel like we've gotten very defensive of Wesley Snipes in recent years. That there's been a sort of reevaluation, and there was a sort of like, when Black Panther was coming out, people were like, hey, don't forget that Blade was there first. We did the black superhero thing in the 90s, and it was a hit. Like, that it's not impossible. And I guess people like that he was back in Deadpool and Wolverine. For those who don't know, he's in the movie. And I feel like that's translated to people being a little softer on maybe what went down on this set, whereas around the time this movie's released, it was basically he got thrown under the bus for this thing, right? That a lot of the blame was laid at his feet, and I don't know if that's an accurate narrative either. But it does sound, for according to a lot of people, he did physically attack David S. Goyer on set of this movie. Now, what exactly that looked like? Maybe
don't do that.
Yeah, what exactly that looked like, who knows? But still, that's not great. And a lot of this comes from Patton Oswalt, who mentions in this movie, who used to talk about it, and a lot of him talking about it has basically been scrubbed from the internet. Because I feel like maybe it didn't look good after a little bit for him, or just maybe the stuff he talked about it on just doesn't exist anymore, right? But
Hmm.
a lot of the stories of like Wesley Snipes refusing to come out of his trailer, Wesley Snipes only communicating through posted notes, and signing all of them as being from Blade. That they used his stand-in for most of the shots in this movie. That the original plot that everyone signed up for was a storyline in which Blade would have finally been wrestling with becoming like a full vampire, and it would have been this really big internal battle, which you can still see the skeleton of in this movie. And then, as it became clear that he was uncooperative with that version of events, uh, they had to add this whole Dracula thing. Um, how do you, what's your take on all that? Like, just from the year 2025, looking back for a movie that is now 21 years old.
Um, well, just talk about the production troubles. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of blame to go around. I'm not trying to be a person who's like, oh, ultimately it's a land of contrasts.
Yeah.
But it is. And I do think it's worth noting though that when Wesley Snipes was given the production a hard time, yeah, he's got some pretty heinous accusations about how physical he was with stuff
Hmm.
at the time. I don't mean to put a damper on
Yeah,
stuff.
and he's like a
But it
sovereign citizen nut, or at least was in this time. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
it's not really fun topics to talk about, but um I know there's stories from when he was with Halle Berry that aren't pleasant.
yeah.
Um so he won't be in the Avengers movies, just a heads up, because she is. Um but it's not great. He doesn't come out looking good at any of this, and I do hope he's grown and changed and
Mhm.
has chilled the fuck out. I not that this would have made the movie better, frankly. But it would be nice to look back and be like, yeah, look, it didn't work, but everyone's cool with each other, because that's just not the case. Ryan Reynolds and him are apparently cool because they were in the fucking movie together
Or
later,
or
but
or Wesley Snipes loves money, and they were like, "What do you need to get
or
it?"
Wesley Snipes love money.
Yeah, or
Yes, yes.
what would it take you to come back and say nice things about Ryan Reynolds, our savior of cinema?
We don't have to get in all
I
that because
do
otherwise we'll
like
be
that
yeah.
in his interview though he still can't help but be like he was the wrong fit for Blade. He can't help but be like, yeah, he was bad in Blade Trinity, but he's good as Deadpool.
Yeah. Which I mean, hey, look, he's talking shit. He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
Like
There,
whatever
there. The
yeah.
question is, we'll never know what it would have looked like had Wesley Snipes showed up to play ball, right? And
Mhm.
who knows? Del Toro. There's a quote from Del Toro. It's kind of unsourced on the Wikipedia page, so I don't know where it came from. But he's like, he had nothing but nice things to say about Wesley during that production, and was like, he knows Blade better than I do. He knows Blade better than Goyer does. Like he specifically says that. And so,
Mhm.
like, I think, you could argue Snipes is very protective of the character, so that could have fed into things. But because we don't know what it would have looked like had he been more cooperative, had he been satisfied with whatever script they were shooting, or been more willing to work it, or had a studio that would cooperate with working it, um, we don't know how Ryan Reynolds would have looked in a more coherent cut of this movie. But what we do have is Ryan Reynolds essentially being, you can tell it was like Ryan Reynolds just do the Ryan Reynolds thing, right? That they just leave him to
Mhm.
his own devices. And it's bad. And it's also
Yeah.
shocking how little of it's changed, right? It's
Mhm.
it's really what's changed is uh the only thing that's changed is that here it's homophobic, and in Deadpool and Wolverine it's queer baiting. that's, that's that's the only shift. is that it's offensive here, it's hateful here, and it's affectionate in Deadpool and Wolverine. Not that it makes it good either way, but it's just, yeah. I mean, there's so many dick jokes in this, and by so many, I mean,
Oh yeah,
I
because
mean,
dicks were funny.
I mean 3 or 4. But like that's too many for a Blade.
Yeah. Because like, look, like, not that Blade and Blade 2 weren't like super entertaining blockbusters,
Mm.
but they have a certain like vibe to them that's not dick jokes. The dick jokes were coming from, again, my cousin in the back of a living room
Yeah.
going, that looks like his dick when a vampire's cut in half and his organs start spilling out, you
Well, here's
know?
the thing. That's what's gone
Like,
wrong in the culture is that now your cousin is writing these movies. And I don't mean your cousin
yeah.
specifically. I just mean that that mentality is now what every movie is for right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Like whereas something like Blade, the original Blade is fairly sincere while also being pulpy, which is the tone I think you want to
Mhm.
aim for with a comic book movie, right? That you want to find that good match. Whereas now there's no sincerity, there's no pulp, and there's just irony, right? And it's just
Yeah.
we're all in on the joke, right? We're all in on the joke. Aren't we all in on the joke? And it's and then if it's just there's but then there's no joke. It's
They're very insecure now. So off your recommendation, I watched that one full scene of Deadpool and Wolverine in the car where Wolverine's laying in to Deadpool, who's basically lied to him to get him to come to another universe to save his universe, right? And Hugh Jackman reminds you like, oh yeah, he's like really good at this. Like there's a reason he's stuck around so long. I mean, besides money, like he can still do it,
yeah.
you know? And I'll give Ryan Reynolds credit if that's him under that mask in that scene. Like just the body language of that scene's pretty good too. Ryan Reynolds, not a bad actor, just lazy. And then it just evolves into fucking nonsense
Yeah.
after that. Like that scene, like it's digital slapstick, which is not the same
Yeah, that
as like
it
real
never hits as
slapstick.
well, right? Like you're just never gonna like that's it just doesn't hit very well.
Yeah,
But
because they're still trying to look cool and stuff, and it's like, no, these guys should. This should be a fucking embarrassing brawl. This should. I
yeah,
think you also brought it up. It should be the fucking fight from They Live,
yeah,
which goes on literally too long, and then it gets back around to just being the right amount of length and being hilarious because of that. Right,
yeah,
like that's what that should have been. But no, you got to have him do that weird Wolverine run, which he's never done before, and it wasn't a problem then. It's a problem now because it looks like shit, and they're just throwing around digital doubles of each other in the back of this
yeah.
shitty van,
And
which would have been funny if they were like cramped in the van
yeah.
fighting.
It like I mean, look, I really think you could have gotten away with it if you didn't put fucking "You're the one that I want" underneath it. Like that's what like to me is just the
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
laugh now,
Yeah.
idiots. Like that's what
Yeah,
that
yeah. Stop doing fucking needle drops. I said this at the end of the Daredevil episode. Stop fucking doing that. They're shitty and bad.
yeah. Is Edgar Wright to blame
Be
for
ashamed
that?
of who you
Is
are.
Edgar Wright to blame for the needle drop thing? Like just being
I'm
so.
gonna say no.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say no, and I'm even gonna go to bat for a director whose movies I generally don't like, Adam Wingard, because he's one of the guys, not the guy, but he's one of the main guys who brought back like the synthwave scores and the '80s new wave needle drops. It's not their fault that people like co-opted it
Mhm.
and made it worse.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree, but I also think that like sometimes you got to go. It's kind of Edgar Wright's fault. Like I feel like Edgar Wright, like God bless him, but like there is a uh I feel like the rise in popularity, especially of the Cornetto trilogy, started a sort of "you see what I did there" type of cinema that Edgar Wright can thread that needle very well, um, and other people can't thread at all, but they still attempt it, right?
Hmm.
And I always think of just like, like there's a lot of references. There's a lot of like, we're telegraphing what's going to happen in goofy lines of dialogue, but you might not have picked up on that. The most obvious probably being The World's End, right? Where they basically tell you like, here's where each character is going to drop from the plot, like in the opening of
Hmm.
the movie. Like he did a lot of that, and then other movies have done similar things that just aren't, they don't work as well. Um, but yeah, and yeah, and I also agree. Like Ryan Reynolds, yeah, not like a bad actor, but there is something to. I always say he's in that Ben Affleck mode where Ben Affleck used to be this for me, where whenever I see him in interviews and stuff, I'm like, Ryan Reynolds seems like he's all right, and then anytime I watch him in a movie, I'm like, fuck Ryan Reynolds. Like I used to feel that way
Yeah.
about Ben Affleck for a long time, and I'm just the only difference is when I was in that fuck Ben Affleck mode, the whole culture was in fuck Ben Affleck. Whereas like I don't think Ryan Reynolds has ever been more popular. Whereas I was probably more on team Ryan Reynolds in this era than other people were. Um,
Yeah, me too.
like it's a little embarrassing to admit, but he's like I a really not aged well movie, but fucking Just Friends was a big DVD watch for me. Uh,
Hmm.
he's in Adventureland. Remember Adventureland? Um,
Oh, I love
yeah,
Adventureland.
and he would do interesting movies like Buried, and then there was like that constant him doing, he does Origins Wolverine, where he's Deadpool, and then he does Green Lantern, and there is that thing of him like he is trying to become a superhero actor, like he's clearly more invested than any actor in this era of getting on the superhero train before it was totally clear that that's the train that you needed to be on, right? and
Hmm.
and basically, you know, uh, forcing the studio to release to let him do Deadpool, right? Like they basically
Yeah.
like had to maneuver. He had to maneuver his way into getting Deadpool, which is as much as I maybe don't like that movie or hasn't aged the best. There is something kind of endearing about his drive to get it made. Um, and now like I couldn't be more sick of him, and he's probably at the peak of his powers right now. um
Hmm.
who knows how much longer that
Yeah.
has to last. um
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of shocked he's not even doing the Star Wars movie with his boy.
he'll have a
Um,
cameo in it.
Probably because I just I don't know, but he had a cameo in Bullet Train. He had a cameo in Hobbs and Shaw because Deadpool 2 was by David Leitch. And he looks out for his boys, and I respect that. But I just I don't get Ryan Reynolds anymore. I don't know what he wants besides being Deadpool and owning Mint Mobile or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, that's the
He's
sphere where
rudderless
I
to me.
start going, oh, there might be something wrong here, because the fact that he keeps trying to sell me a cell phone service is making me a little suspicious of things. Um so uh but yeah, it hasn't been a great run recently for him in terms of quality, but it's getting a good response from the general public. Uh, although
Yeah, people can be wrong.
did If make any money? Like
No,
did
I think that was a bomb.
hmm
Failed fantasy blockbuster.
Yeah, we'll never talk about that movie because what the fuck is there to talk about? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
made 190 million on a $110 million budget. Uh,
yeah. You don't want that.
no, you don't
You don't
want
want
that.
that.
But that was John Krasinski being like, I made everyone so much money with fucking the Quiet Place franchise. So
Yeah, which I do want directors to do
mm,
their big swings. It's just his big swing doesn't seem like that interesting
yeah,
to
and
me.
also like, is there anyone you shouldn't cast in that type of movie than Ryan Reynolds? Like, is there any worse fit for
Yeah.
that type of child wonderment type film than him? But yeah, I'm just looking at his filmography, and it's like it's just bad, especially
No.
lately. Remember he was Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, bad movie.
Yeah.
Also,
Um, what else was he? He was Red Notice.
yeah, he was the Red
He was Red
Notice,
Notice. He was the. It was
a
the.
movie I did not finish.
Yeah. Who could? I think
Yeah,
he's dressed like Lupin the Third in the movie, which is probably the only reason why I watched even 5 minutes of it.
I,
Uh,
I think it was your friend Shannon that brought that up,
yeah.
like publicly. She was the first one, and then everyone was like, "Oh, I should watch it." She was like,
Well,
"No."
Lupin the Third is slowly creeping into the culture because that's that kind of the one good action scene in the last Mission Impossible movie was kind of riffing on Lupin. Um,
The car one,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
What other good action was there in that movie?
I mean, hey, you're preaching
Exactly,
to the choir here.
exactly.
I do kind of like the train thing, but it's just like that's not a finale set
I'm
piece,
looking at
which unfortunately it was.
I'm looking at what he's got lined up. He's apparently going to be in the Dragon's Lair movie as Dirk.
Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, but that could be something that just never gets made, right? Like there's no release date
Yeah.
attached to it. Also, he's gonna be Dick the Daring in it. I thought it was Dirk. Ah, whatever. Um, it says untitled Dragon's Lair movie. What the fuck else do you call it? Uh, he's gonna be in a Clue remake apparently.
No, no, no. That don't worry, that one's dead.
Is it
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's dead.
okay? It's gonna be him and Jason Bateman apparently. Um,
Yeah, he's doing a movie called Mayday with the Dungeons and Dragons directors.
oh yeah, I think
I'm
we
sure
did.
they will make that movie good despite him.
Yeah, well, we'll find that could be a really good test to see of how far the Ryan Reynolds thing can actually go, right? If you can
Hmm.
deploy him well. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just when you watch it, there is a lot of elements to this movie where you're like, oh God, it's like it was here the whole time, like all everything bad that was coming. It's
Yeah. Yeah, it really kind of cast a shroud over the rest of the film for me.
Mhm.
I got to be honest.
So that's why you
um
brought that up initially. Like you really just can't like the Ryan Reynolds of it was the thing that like hurt this movie, like just kills this movie beyond the point of redemption for you.
yeah. Yeah, and it didn't really have any other redeeming factors beyond him anyways,
Mhm.
but it's like you showed me a coffin and then Ryan Reynolds just started nailing the coffin like immediately. It's like I haven't looked inside. It's like you don't need to. It's like, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's probably fair. Um but now having looked at the rest of the movie, yeah, like that's still valid. Jessica Biel is also here as
Yes.
Abigail Whistler because they kill off Whistler in like the first scene of the movie.
And then he comes back, and then and then what's crazy is he dies in Blade One. Spoilers. And
Yeah.
then he's in all three of the Blade movies.
Yeah.
God bless Chris Christopherson, but like, what the fuck? Uh, that feels like that feels very much like the studio. Honestly, that feels like some fucking racist shit. Honestly, like that they're like, we need to have a
Hmm.
big white actor in these movies, and it's like just keep bringing Chris Christopherson back because he's the only one who will say yes. Uh, she's
Yeah, a little bit.
she's she was anti-vax at one point, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, there was- that's what's weird about guys because it was specifically the RFK thing. Like there, guys like RFK, they always dupe Hollywood liberals first, and it always works. And then once they've gotten a platform through them, then they make the pivot to the hard right, right? Like
Yeah.
it always works. Um, I don't know. Like I feel like there's a lot. There's got to be a lot of people right now trying to get as far away from the RFK bomb as possible, right? Like that. Like it's just there's no good ending to that story, right? Only the truly
Mm-hmm.
dedicated and crazy are attached to it. Um, but uh, whereas like I doubt Jessica Biel has even read anything. I bet she hasn't even read RFK's book.
Oh yeah, there's no way.
She's got attached to be like, oh, I want to help with people. Let me help with this. Oh, autism? Sure. What are we doing?
Yeah, she's also not good in this.
No.
And before I knew she was anti-vaxxer, I did kind of root for her for a
Well, she
bit.
had that good run on
But
fucking what do you call it? Uh what was she in? Um wasn't she on BoJack Horseman? Was that her?
she was in a couple episodes.
Yeah, like she was like a running gag on BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I was like, oh, that was cute. That was fun. This is her like post. This is right after she does Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which no one seems to remember, I guess. Um,
Oh, don't say that on horror Twitter or horror Blue Sky.
I just remember the head. I just remember the camera going through the head after the person blows their brains out. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that.
There's some fun stuff in
Yeah,
that movie.
come on, bring it. The guy with the cane. Remember that? And Arlie Ermy does kind of
Mm,
rule in that. Like he's kind of the like if you're gonna watch this movie, watch it for him, right?
hmm
How was Trip?
Yeah, there's fun stuff in there. It's just not, the original
Yeah,
masterpiece.
how was Triple H not Leatherface?
Oh yeah, that does seem like kind of a slam
Yeah,
dunk.
it's actually what's kind of shocking was watching this and being like, well, what else? What else was Triple H in? And then it's like nothing. Like they never really tapped into the Triple H thing. Um, And like I'm not gonna sit here and be like Triple H, great actor. Like that was not what I took away from this. But he does have a commanding physical presence. He's
hmm
engaging as he seems to know it. He's not like aiming for at least it doesn't feel like he's aiming for like a rock type career, right? Like he's not like this he was not like this is my Scorpion King. He's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's like I'm the fifth guy in the bad guy gang, and it's like this is the only time he really did that. Like there aren't like he kind of just stayed in the WWE. Now maybe that's partly because he did so well in WWE and is now the CEO currently. um, but uh it might have just been that was just so lucrative and he was just much more willing to play that game. But it is kind of shocking that no one else was like, yeah, put that guy in the movie as the henchman, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, and I also just miss imposing henchmen like that.
Yeah. We don't
Like, that's really fun in action
we just
movies.
don't do the wrestler thing anymore, right? Like we did it with
hmm
Batista, and it feels like the only reason that gets done is because James Gunn is like recognizes the power of putting a wrestler in your movie, right? He
Yeah.
knows that like these guys aren't like they're not like gonna fucking win Oscars, but they aren't nothing. They're performers. They know how to perform, especially physically. And the one problem
hmm
is it feels like he was cast to be like Triple H, you are gonna fight Blade, and then that like never happens in the movie
Yeah.
because Wesley Snipes was like, I'm not learning that choreography. Like it's like whatever they had planned. So he's stuck like running around a hallway with a gun a lot of the time. And you know what he doesn't look good doing is that.
Running around with a gun.
Yeah, like that looks really bad. And he looks scared. Like it's funny. Like I think he's playing like the fun of being like the henchman that like gets his ass kicked. Like he knows that role. He knows what it means to be the villain. He's fucking Triple H. And but when he's running around, it's not as engaging when it's with a gun and or when he's supposed to be using like vampire superpowers. Like it's more engaging when it's like one on one in the cage. We're just gonna fucking punch each other. And yeah, it's such a it's a weird one, and maybe this was just such a bad experience for him that he was like, "Fuck that." But
Yeah, you know what? I mean, but you brought up a good point. Like, even like the basic movie structure for action movies, like the perfunctory, like this is the big buff heavy before the bad guy that the hero has to make their way through.
Mhm.
Like, we don't even get that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, they kind of do this thing where Jessica Biel has to fight someone, then Ryan Reynolds has to fight someone, and then Wesley Snipes fights Blade, right? Like, that makes sense for, like, an Avengers movie or, like, an ensemble action movie, right? Everyone gets, like, their antagonists they have to fight, but we don't even really get that in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't... Like, nothing's clicking together here on even the most basic level. You know what just... This popped up in my brain. We talked about, oh god, that Adam Sandler, Damon Wayans movie,
Oh,
Bulletproof.
yeah, Bulletproof. Yeah.
Which is not good.
Mm-mm.
But that director's great.
That was the episode where
there's still...
I somehow forgot Ernest Dickerson was the cinematographer for Do the Right Thing. I'm like trying to sing his
Ernest
praises,
Dickerson.
and I leave out like the one thing that like everyone definitely would have known. And I'm like, oh, you know, Demon Knight.
But I mean, look, Ernest Dickerson, you're right. I did not give him enough credit as a director in that episode because of how boring I find that movie still. But like, you could tell he's cooking once in a while, right? But even that movie, that perfunctory, boring movie that didn't end up working, hits the beats it's supposed to for a decent action movie.
It almost hits them too well. Is like the problem with that movie. Like it just becomes generic. Whereas this is like it doesn't hit all. And I think it really does all come back to. They must have used every minute of footage they had of Wesley Snipes in this movie. And then they just built a movie around that. Like, that's just what it feels like. And again, Triple H probably made more sense as, like, the penultimate fight. Or, you know, like, it's one that, you know, it's that thing of, like, whatever Parker Posey was maybe supposed to be before the movie turned into what it was. You know, he can't go and punch Parker Posey in the face, right? Like that's just not that's not cool. So you gotta have someone like Triple H in there to actually get punched. And then it's like, well, now we've added this Dracula thing, so now Blade will fight Dracula, so he doesn't need to fight Triple H, but then why is Triple H here? Like it just becomes a complete mess. And I will say that's the one good performance in this. Really is Parker Posey, who seems to be just having fun. I'm just like, Parker Posey, fucking murder me, and just it's great. And I'm trying to think about Jessica Biel in this, who, again, like can give a good performance. I think I'm willing to say that can be used effectively, right? I feel like people came out of that Total Recall remake being like, that sucked, but you know who actually popped in it was Jessica Biel. I feel like that was the takeaway from that movie.
Do you know where else she popped?
No.
She was in an episode of New Girl.
Oh, all right. All right.
Yeah. And she's Jess is they're all at a wedding, right? It's like one of the season premieres. They're all at a wedding, and Jess is trying to get back out there, right? And they're all very encouraging her, and she's like, I don't know how to do it. And like, okay, she's finally musters up the courage to do it. And as she's talking to this guy, Jessica Biel walks up right next to them and starts talking to him too, and she's like, oh shit. And so they kind of like, you know, it's like a battle of wits the whole episode. And it's really funny because the resolution is that the guy ends up being too intimidated by both of them doing anything, so they're just like, you know, hey, that was pretty good. Yeah, you were pretty good out there too. I didn't expect that, you know. And it's like, wow. And so she's like the ultimate new girl, you know, for her to like overcome for that episode. And I get a kick out of her there.
Okay, I will watch New Girl eventually. I promise.
Yeah. Look, if the cast of that wasn't so sprawling throughout the last decade and a half of cinema, I wouldn't keep bringing it up. I swear. Yeah. The problem is, everyone who's someone now was on that show at some point. It's sort of like the millennial Seinfeld, you know? I
guess, yeah. I mean, you could. I thought Always Sunny was millennial Seinfeld.
A little bit, but that one is like a psychotic show.
I thought New Girls was Friends, but good.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. Yeah.
But like I was saying with Jessica Biel, like I'm just saying that like. You can tell that she's acting to no one sometimes, and that's what she's not good at, right? Like she's just, it's a drop it's just a dead performance a lot of the time because she has to carry the entire weight of some scene and has no one to bounce off of. And I guess the only person she has to bounce off is Ryan Reynolds, who is off doing his own fucking shtick. That is, does Ryan Reynolds have writers?
I think officially now he does, basically.
Okay, because like
One of them is himself. That's not a joke.
well, yeah, I'm not.
And
I'm
then the
not.
others are, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't feel like he. I don't feel like his improv was him showing up on set and being like. Unfortunately, it's probably the meanest thing I'm going to say about him. It feels like he really worked on this material, which makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it feels like it's one of those things where it's like Shane Black kind of does Robert Downey Jr.'s dialogue. Like Downey Jr. has a team, and there are actors where Will Smith has that, where he has a team that kind of protects how he sounds in every movie, and for some reason, which maybe makes more sense in retrospect, he always wanted to be a hardened badass that said cruel things to people. He didn't want to be a charming dork like he was on Fresh Prince or in Men in Black or Enemy of the State. No, he wanted to be the meanest person imaginable.
um, no, but I think Reynolds guys are primarily Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese.
Mm,
They're specifically known for like Zombieland and the Deadpool
that
movies.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah, yeah.
Zombieland.
I do. I have very happy memories of that movie, and I'm gonna keep it that
That
way.
that was a movie where it was like, and this is, I guess, this is why I guess I can't really judge the people loving Deadpool and Wolverine. Because I wonder how many people actually rewatch a movie like that. And I'm not saying like they don't. I'm just saying that when they do, I bet you they're doing other things. Um, Everyone's got
Hmm.
7 screens in front of them now. Uh, but I remember seeing Zombieland in theaters being like 10 out of 10. That was fucking hysterical. Great movie. Getting it on DVD and like none of the jokes landing on rewatch and being like, oh, there's something to not watching this with a crowd that's really into it and laughing constantly that hurts this rewatch. Um, but hey, uh,
Speaking of watching movies with crowds, let's just talk about it for a little bit. We both saw Sinners,
yes, um,
and it's the best movie of the decade, maybe
it's a little early for that, but it is great. Um, it's
so far. How
it's
about that?
well, is it's I'm it's probably the best movie of 2025 so far.
Oh,
Like,
I don't think that's a competition. I
um,
gotta be honest.
I
It's been slim
yeah,
pickings.
it hasn't been a great year, and I haven't seen a ton. I'm looking at what else is out that like could compete with it. Um,
It's been a bigger TV year than movie year for me, and I don't even just mean in terms of like quantity I'm watching. I mean stuff I have enjoyed.
yeah.
I've enjoyed about 5 or 6 theatrical experiences this year. Everything else kind of washed right over me.
Mm,
Um, let's see. Companion and the Monkey I enjoyed. One of Them Days I thought was hysterical and great. Den of Thieves 2,
mm,
which I know you're never gonna watch now.
mm.
I loved, and then Mickey 17 I also loved,
Yeah, Mickey 17's good. Everyone likes Black Bag. Um,
which I have not seen yet. Fucking the ghost one you hated. Yeah, I like the other Soderbergh a lot.
was that last year though?
No. It's this year. It's this
It,
year.
it doesn't matter.
I can't remember the name of it though.
It's not making
But
any
yeah.
top 10 list unless you're insane. Um,
Yeah. Me. Presents, baby. We got presents fever up in here.
yeah. And there doesn't seem to be a ton that people are hyped about. Um, what looks terrible is Megan 2.0.
You know what? Give that to me immediately, any day of the week, twice on Sundays over the first movie already.
I never saw the first one.
I don't think you would enjoy it.
Okay.
I think that the last 20 to 30 minutes are the movie you go for.
Mm.
And unfortunately there's about 80 minutes before that. So, I'm into
Is
this.
there anything on the
I'm into this
horizon
one
though
now.
that's like hyped?
Uh, I don't know if you've seen anything for Weapons, that new Zach Kreger movie.
No, I haven't.
Okay, they just started the rollout for the marketing for that. I've heard tell of this movie. So usually when a script's getting shopped around, they don't really have it under lock and key, right? Like it's very rare unless it's like Christopher Nolan or something. This script is supposed to be like fucking legendary to the point where I didn't know this until recently. This might shock you and people that didn't know this either. Um, Jordan Peele tried like blood, sweat, and tears to buy that script to produce it for Zach Kreger. So Zach
Oh,
Kreger still directs and everything. They don't get it at Monkey Paw because someone at that company above Monkey Paw is not sharing the wealth very much,
mm,
and so they can't match the price for New Line to buy the rights to that movie and produce it for Zach Kreger.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
Barbarian
so
feels like
Peele fired his agents after that.
who fired his agent?
Jordan Peele fired his team after that, his
Oh,
agent team after
wow.
that, because they couldn't lock that shit down because I think it was their fault they didn't get it in
That's kind of
time.
crazy.
And he,
Uh,
yeah.
wow.
So if Jordan Peele wants it,
Yeah.
clearly it's got to be
Well,
something special.
Barbarian feels very much a post Get Out movie, right? Like
Yeah.
that's very much a without it feeling like a ripoff of Get Out, but it's very much a like it looked at the beats Get Out hit and was like, I'm gonna do that too. And it's probably the most successful of the post Get Out movies, right?
Hmm.
I would
Yeah.
argue. So it makes sense that Peele would maybe see something in Krieger's script. Um,
Well, I'll say the talk of the town, so to speak, is that like Weapons is supposed to be like the closest point of comparison has been like Magnolia,
mm,
but as a horror movie, which I just found fascinating because I'm like, what does that even mean?
yeah, that's
You
interesting.
know?
Uh,
Yeah. So
none of this
that one
has
I cannot wait for now.
none of this has anything to do with Sinners. Uh,
No. But stuff people looking forward to. I think they've released just like some footage, some teasing footage of that of kids running out of their house in the middle of the night, and it looks fucking terrifying.
mhm.
So thumbs up. Can't wait.
All right. Looking forward to that one.
But yeah, Sinners. How was your theater with that movie?
Um, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I had a great theater for Sinners. Now I
Hmm.
saw it late on a Sunday, on Easter Sunday. So it
Ah.
wasn't packed, and it was very loud. And I'm kind of appreciative of that because there was clearly people laughing, like a few rows behind me. I don't know how bad they really were, but it felt like they were kind of laughing at the movie in the times I did hear them
Hmm.
laughing. But that was so like I didn't really have a great crowd experience with Sinners. Now it didn't matter because the fucking movie ruled. Uh, but
Hmm.
yeah, I've heard people had better crowd experiences. Um, I'm not getting any of the crowds described because I also snuck in the 30 minutes of Minecraft and I didn't see anything super ridiculous.
Hmm. I skipped Minecraft, so
Yeah. I only saw it because I wasn't ready to drive an hour home after seeing Vampire Hunter D in theaters.
no. Yeah. Sinners tore my fucking house down when I saw it, and I saw it on a Thursday afternoon. People, strangers in the same row as I, were looking at each other and just going like, "Damn!" after certain scenes and sequences. It's incredible. It's fucking. It is upsetting that I rewatched Blade Trinity in such close proximity to that movie.
Well, it might be
Um,
why we're doing Blade Trinity right now. Like that was the
I
kind
mean,
of
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I were both very excited about it, and I was like, "Oh man, I hope that movie's really great." Because Ryan Coogler is a great filmmaker, and his last go at the bat, not entirely his fault for
yeah,
maybe why that movie doesn't work so well.
that was yeah. There was a lot going on there.
there's a lot going on there. I don't wish that production on anyone, and he made about as good a movie as you could under the circumstances.
Yeah.
Bless him. This feels like he's finally like unleashed. Like this is completely wholly him, and it's just been very inspiring to see how people have accepted it almost universally. It seems like, and it just feels good. It feels so good to get a movie as special as that, and most people being on board with it. You know,
Yeah.
it'll never be truly universal, but like people are fucking hyped about it, even if it's not making $1 billion right now.
I think it's the cool movie to like, and I think it will have good legs through word of mouth,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
Like,
Hmm.
it's that, and I was just kind of shocked at how audacious it was. Like, it takes so many wild swings that if you told me that was going to be in the movie, I'd be like, that's not going to work. I really think there's a
Yeah.
lot of sequences in it that if you described it to me, I'm like, there's no way that works, and he pulls it off. So, um, especially the like three endings the movie has. I won't spoil that because the movie's so new, but that really shouldn't have worked, and it does.
Yeah.
It kind of shocked me. Um, and yeah, it was just a fucking super impressive movie, and it is one of those where, like, yeah, Ryan Coogler is a good director, and it's one of those where I feel like we all kind of got a little, I don't know what the word would be, but we kind of got a little down on Coogler because he does two Black Panther movies in a row, right? Like, it's
Hmm.
Fruitvale Station, Creed, and two Black Panther movies, so he's like kind of in franchise movie world for a while, right? And then there's been like some reevaluations of Creed, which I don't agree with. I think Creed's a great movie. And
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking Ethan.
mm,
What the fuck,
how
dude? That was such a
does
surprise.
Ethan not like Creed? Uh,
No, he was like, I don't know about this Sinners movie you're all talking about because it's Black Panther movies, whatever, and
mm,
Creed was like fine,
mm,
and that hit me like
mm.
that was fucking the usual suspects type moment for me where I'm just dropping my cup
Well,
of coffee, I
yeah,
was like, what
people
do
can be
you mean
pe-
it's
people
fine?
can be wrong. And
Yeah.
Black Panther is one where like I feel like I got down on it just because like Marvel is kind of dragging everything associated with it down, but revisited it and I'm like, that's actually the first Black Panther is actually good. Like, it's a totally
Hmm.
solid movie. Like, the worst stuff you can really talk about with it is like dodgy CGI. And if that's your biggest complaint with a movie, then like the movie's pretty good, frankly. Um,
Hmm.
so uh yeah, and the funny thing about Sinners is I was totally just invested in the story of brothers starting a business in the Mississippi Delta. Like, if
No,
that had
me
been if
too.
that had been the whole movie, I would have totally been cool with it. But uh
Yeah, to the point where like when this like I know the turn's gonna start,
yeah.
and I don't want it to.
Hmm.
I like these characters so much, and I want them to succeed, and I want this entire community to thrive, and I just it's gonna go fucking bad for everyone, and I didn't want it to.
Hmm.
Like at all. It was so sad when it happened. And to the point where I was like, am I going to be too fucking depressed because these characters are going to die horribly that I'm not going to enjoy the movie? That didn't happen. But but it was a genuine concern for me.
Hmm. I guess one thing that kind
Uh,
of makes it not feel as cruel is that I'll just say one character goes out blazing. So like like that
yeah.
kind of like helps elevate the real darkness and cruelty of the final act of the film. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was I didn't know Coogler had that in him. I didn't know he was like he's talked about being like a huge horror guy and he wants to do more now, and I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, what else he got? Let's
mhm.
do it. Like, now he was already a director I'm there for day one since Creed.
Yeah.
But like even more so, it's like no, I'm really gonna be there for
No,
whatever.
like
Like Black Panther 3 is next, I'll be there for him.
it's so clear he's got such a good feel for genre, right? Like, he's got such a good feel, especially when he's working in a different genre. Because I think really the strength of, and this is something that probably just went under the radar because they were both franchises, is Creed just works as a sports movie, right? Like, the Rocky stuff I think
Hmm.
helps it, but it's not like it's not so beholden to Rocky. It's just like he understands the beats you need to hit for a sports movie, correct? And the
Hmm.
first Black Panther, at least, like Black Panther 2 is like this whole other beast because of the weird production stuff. And but the first Black Panther is so like this guy's watched every superhero film and knows how to make this stuff work, right? Like he
Hmm.
wasn't thinking about it in terms of like how does this fit into the greater MCU, right? Which I'm sure were other people's job, but his whole thing was like, how do I make a great superhero movie? And Sinners being his first original thing in a minute, I think is a good reminder. Like, oh, this guy's like, this is him when he's watching other horror movies, being like, here's how I take those pieces and make my own really great thing out of it. Um,
Totally.
that being said, it is very
Totally.
shocking
Like,
how similar in structure it is to From Dusk Till Dawn.
oh yeah, no. You can tell he like loves that
Mm,
movie and is like, all right, not that it's lesser,
mm,
right? But it's like, okay, how can I do that and put myself
yeah.
into it?
Well,
And not just do From Dusk Till Dawn because I love it. Like, let's take the format of that and I'll tell a very specific personal story within that structure
mm,
that makes it feel completely different,
mm.
you know?
Yeah, well, I think
Um,
I bet you it's similar. Like when Tarantino talks about writing from Dusk Till Dawn, he talks about like how Stephen King was a huge influence on it, and he talks about how Stephen King, like the first half of the book, is usually just setting up characters and their plots, and that's what he used
mhm,
to like as his jumping off point. And I feel like Coogler probably took a very horror novel approach to it because that's the really fun pulpy horror novels, especially from the 80s, tend to have a very similar structure to Sinners, right? Where
mhm.
it's a lot of character stuff in the beginning. There's almost like a conspiracy level plot, and then the horror slowly creeps in. Um, and yeah, and then like the third act is just insane. Um, but
Yeah. I think Coogler said he wanted the movie to have like the tonal experience as Metallica's song 1,
sure.
which is like when he said that, it was like, okay, that's yeah. The rise and build to the chaos of that song's finale is the exact build of Sinners. Like it was so clear when he explained that it was just like, oh, obviously, yeah. Like I didn't second guess any of that. You know, sometimes you hear people talk about their work and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, it was just like immediately 1-to-1. I was like, no, no, yeah, that makes sense.
Also, the
Like,
funny thing about Sinners too, I just gotta say, I think you even might have said this to me, where a lot of people before I saw the movie were like, keep an eye out for that one scene. Like you're gonna know the scene when you see it. Like when that scene happens, you're gonna be like, holy shit. And there's like 4 scenes in the movie that I feel like I could apply that to.
yeah, no, 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 me too. Yeah. Oh, I had posted about that, and then then every once in a while you get the replies that are like, "Well, I didn't think that," and I was like, "Okay, well, everyone else who's quote tweeting this saying I know exactly what you're talking about did, so whatever." Yeah, I had said the movie just keeps going. Like you think that's the best scene in the movie, and it arguably still is. It might be my favorite, but then there's like the entire back half of the movie just keeps building and building and building. And it's like, no, that's probably the best scene. Well, maybe that one's the best scene. Holy shit, that might be the best scene. Oh my god, that might be the best scene. Now I'm crying. And like, oh my god, we're still going with the best scenes in the movie. It just and it's never stopped. And I left on such a fucking high. I'm still talking about it a week later.
Yeah.
Not just in the podcast. I talked about it to relatives on Easter. I was like, you gotta fucking see this movie. Because people always ask what I'm watching, and I'm like, until recently, I wasn't gonna really have anything to offer you guys, but you guys have to see this. And
As one like I
I
texted
basically pitched
like
it as like a movie about the blues.
yeah, I basically texted 4 people immediately after seeing this being like go see Sinners like immediately. And a lot of them already have. So again, I think it will have good word of mouth as a result. I don't want to say too much because I don't
Yeah.
want to spoil.
Not to
I
be
don't want
all.
to give away too much. Although it was funny that people were talking about how much the trailers gave away, and it it's funny that like even with those in the back of my head, it didn't like undermine the movie at all. Um,
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah,
weird
same
roll.
here.
That was a weird rollout. Like that's whatever's going on at fucking Warner Brothers is embarrassing. Um,
I think the people that greenlit this movie, what are their face? so and so and DeLuca. I don't know. There are two people who apparently like their heads were on the chopping block after Joker 2 start bombed, and then their movies haven't been making money. And then with Minecraft and this back to back, I think they'll be fine now.
Mm.
But besides them, because they're the ones who greenlit like Paul Thomas Anderson's upcoming movie, and Got Weapons, what I was just hyping up. I think Warner Brothers just didn't really know what they had. Like, I remember hearing the test screenings for this weren't rated very well,
Mm.
and I just don't think they understood that like they got a fucking heater in the trunk with this.
No, if you watch this movie, you know why David Zaslav was like, "This is bad." This and Mickey 17, you get why he didn't put his weight behind it, and he's like, "I am
Oh, sure, yeah.
contractually obligated to put X amount of weight behind these movies." Like that was the rollout for both this and Mickey 17, right? And
Mhm.
it's like it feels like he's like, my predecessors agreed to these contracts. I don't like them. I don't like the movies. And you know exactly why when you watch it. And now more than ever, I'm convinced that Coyote versus Acme might be the greatest film ever made. Like there's like this guy's tastes are so bad that I can only assume that that's what's going on. Uh, but it's just, but yeah, watching Sinners, you're like, that's why that idiot didn't like this movie. I mean,
Well, how
it's
could you possibly say he has bad taste after he threw his entire production company behind The Alto Night, starring two Robert De Niro's?
I don't even know what that is.
That's a real movie that came out like a month ago,
Wow.
starring two Robert De Niro's, directed by Barry Levinson.
Oh yeah, now I
Um,
remember. Like this is, yeah, that was like a movie where like I saw one preview for it. I'm like, that's crazy. That's coming out. And it's like that's coming out next week, and it's like, oh, that's gonna be bad.
mhm.
Like the moment you hear that, it's like, oh, that's bad. Um, but
Yeah. Well, it was Zaslav's passion project, and he like rushed that into
well,
production.
like yeah,
And yeah,
here
that didn't
the
work.
movies
So.
he's thrown his weight behind are were that apparently. I didn't know that, but there's that. There's the Flash, right? And the other
Mhm.
is Joker 2, which I don't know how much was him, but that was one where Warner Brothers put more of their money on the line for Joker 2 than they did for Joker 1. Like that Joker 1 was funded through a lot of outside sources, whereas Joker 2 had a lot of the full weight of Warner Bros. Behind it because they thought it was going to be a similar hit, right? And so it's, I don't know how much of that was him, but it's been embarrassing to see. Uh,
Yeah, and I think we talked about it before, but I'll just say it again. Like, look, whatever our feelings about the very terrible film Joker, like, you look at those numbers that it made. Obviously, if you're a studio looking to fucking build franchises, you green like that movie. Whatever we feel about the way studios operate, like obviously producers want to green light a sequel to Joker. It just makes sense. It fucking gets wrecked. People don't like it. Kills any future franchise potential. It's a win for like the arts basically that movie bombed as terribly as it did. And I want to mention the actual people's names: Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, the co-chairpersons and CEOs of Warner Brothers right now.
Does DeLuca have any of his hands in the Blade films? Because he was at New Line around this time. Like, is this like?
No, I don't think so.
I feel like he had to have had something because he's got his fingerprints over so much shit that was going on at this time. Like,
It doesn't look like it.
okay,
He was a producer on the Fright Night remake.
well, no, but like, here's the thing.
Oh my god, no. He produced Blade 2
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like, here's the thing.
and Blade. Okay, but not Blade Trinity.
Yeah, he has his name on a ton of shit from that like mid 90s to early 2000s era. Like I think he's partly what gets Jackson to do, like he's partly what gets Jackson in the door for the Lord of the Rings films. I don't know if his name's actually anywhere on the Lord of the Rings films. But I know he helped facilitate that. Like there's a lot of stuff without his
Yeah.
name on it that he helped make happen.
Yeah, like he's not credited on the first Blade. He's an executive producer on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare,
Yeah.
which, was going to be the Jackson one originally.
Mhm.
So there's probably a connection there.
I know, I mean he was a New Line guy. He kind of oversaw the disastrous fucking Island of Dr. Moreau production. but like
Mhm.
that, like he didn't cause any of that. That was a lot of shit going wrong, and
Yeah.
he got he got that movie started. Which when you hear what that movie was originally pitched as, that's kind of impressive. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
He also wrote In the Mouth of Madness.
yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, he was a horror guy, like, and I think he saw the shift coming from horror to superhero films, right? Like I think he
Hmm.
saw that. Was one of the earlier guys and got New Line in there with the first Blade movie, and arguably that started those dominoes falling. Like,
Yeah. Also, our favorite, The Long Kiss Goodnight.
mhm,
He produced that, executive produced that.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, he's got, like I
you
said,
know.
he's like quietly got his hands on a lot of movies from around this time. Um,
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like a very
God, Sinners, what a good fucking movie.
yeah, kind of very old school producers. It makes sense that he is connected to Sinners, and also was like he's giving interviews now where he's like, we've already got another project lined up with Ryan Coogler, like,
Hmm.
which could just even be him being like, I'm daring you to kill any deal we have with Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
Like,
to write that headline if you want to do that. Like, so
yeah. Like, if Ryan Coogler's happy to go back to work with you, like,
mhm.
I think you'd be a fucking
I
fool
think
to
he's
stop that from
yeah.
happening.
He says he's doing Black Panther 3. Like from what I like he gave
Yeah, that's
interviews,
next for him.
which, whatever, could right the ship. There was a lot going on with Black Panther 2. Um but so we'll see what happens there. Who knows if that's even going to get made at this point? Like, who knows what superhero projects are actually going through now?
Here's what I think. I think the next two Avengers movies are going to be like kind of train wrecks that people enjoy, but don't actually do that well. I think they'll like break even in traditional numbers, but then people will realize they actually spent like $1 billion on each one
Yeah,
of them, and they're just not.
are they going to be like a Transformers The Last Night downgrade?
I think so. Where people are like, hey, this like long term, this did technically make money,
Yeah,
but it's not enough. These things need to gross $1 billion to be like stable, and they're not going to do that anymore. So I think they will greenlight back Black Panther 3 immediately
Mhm.
because it's fucking Black Panther and whatever. The second one didn't do nearly as well as the first one, but that's a lot of circumstances, right? People are barely going back to theaters on a regular basis in 2022, and the people have a certain reverence for that franchise over all the others,
Yeah, and I
basically.
bet you by the time we're getting to the production of Black Panther 3, a lot of studios are going to have to be making up for trying to appease a certain temporary politician by
Oh
pivoting the
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
they're
yeah,
producing, and they'll have to do a lot of make good films to be like, oh no, we're
yeah.
actually we're still progressive. We were joking, we didn't do it all. Like,
I
uh,
mean, to the point where like I will give them some credit if they just outright make the president like the villain in Black Panther 3, like the president of the United States.
well,
But
what's going on with Red Hulk? What's going on there?
I don't know. I think he ends up in like he turns himself in at the end of Captain America 4. I heard. I don't know. That might not be true. I didn't see the movie,
A last true
but that's what I heard.
Republican.
Yeah, it's the Aaron Sorkin thing. Where it's
Yeah.
like, sir, it's time for you to go.
Uh,
No, Sinners is better than all of that shit. To the point where I think there was a rumor, which I will just say right now is untrue. This is not true.
okay.
But there was that rumor
Then
going around that
let's
like
spread it some more anyway.
no, because I think it's worth talking about because people were so desperate for anything that sounds good for a future Blade movie. Where Mahershala Ali goes up at like 2018 Comic-Con and he's like, I want to be Blade. And he puts the hat on. People fucking lose their shit because obviously he would fucking kill, right?
Yeah,
Like just
it's it's
obviously.
a slam dunk. This should be the easiest film to make. Like, here's the this is Blade worked so well two times. Blade is a crazily easy character to get right. It only didn't work because the lead actor had a meltdown during the production of this movie. Like, that's the main thing that went wrong. I'm not saying that the coherent version of Blade Trinity would have been a great film, but I bet you it would have been a coherent movie. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that difficult. And now you have an
Yeah.
actor who wants to be Blade, host Black Panther. This should be a very easy sell. And
Yeah. So, well, just one of the rumors was because Delroy Lindo was also going to be in that movie initially.
yeah, we talked. I think we talked
And
about
there was
this briefly on the Daredevil episode.
yeah, where it was going to be a period piece Blade movie,
Mm.
which I have heard that might be true, but then other people were saying like, oh, Ryan Coogler probably pitched on it, and then he took his idea and created an original project with it. That's not true.
Okay.
Like Ryan Coogler just had his original ideas because he's an artist and wants to express things, right? I think it was like Sinners got rejected at first, like before Black Panther 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because honestly,
And then
frankly,
eventually got
you would
greenlit.
have to be a crazy person to say yes to Sinners. Like, I love the fucking movie, but it's also like I can see why certain studios wouldn't have said yes to the script of Sinners. Now, when I see the final
Hmm.
product, I'm like, okay, yeah, slam dunk. But it is a gamble of a movie. There's a lot of stuff in it where if it didn't work, it would be embarrassing. Like
Hmm.
like that. I'm just saying, like, and it's one where like if you read it, you might be like, oh God, like I don't know if you can like this would really take. And now it's like give Ryan Coogler all the money, all the projects, like he can do it. The guy can do it. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, what do you think's happening with Blade? What do you think's going on?
I think it's dead.
Do you
I really think it's
do you
dead
really
now.
think it is? Like, do you think it's just not
Yeah.
it's just dead? Like they're not even gonna be like we're doing Blade and Wesley Snipes is back. Like, do you think they're just?
I think Snipes is just too old.
Yeah, I think Snipes is too old and
Like,
probably has a little too much baggage to him, frankly.
yeah,
Which is
probably,
probably the
probably.
main thing keeping him out of the movie. Uh,
Hmm.
but it would have to be like a legacy movie if you're gonna do it, right? Like it would have to be
Yeah.
a sudden. All right, now the original three Blade movies are canon, and he's passing the torch to a new Blade, and that's the only way it would work. But I doubt they would even do that. Um,
Yeah. I mean, because I think there was that comic with like Blade's daughter,
yeah, we talked
right?
about this. Like it was
Yeah. and
like that would be the obvious pivot, but who knows? Who fucking knows?
yeah.
I feel like Mahershala
Um.
Ali, whatever deal he has, he better be getting a lot of money if they cancel the project. Is all I'm saying. Like it better
Yeah.
be you got to pay him, like pay or play.
Yeah.
But
I just think they've also got like so much egg on their face from failing to establish like the next generation of Marvel.
yeah, and they're
They're
pivoting.
over half a decade in post Endgame, and
Yeah, and
they have nothing to show for it,
they're
really.
pivoting so hard back to that stuff now. Like, and so yeah, I could totally see that being the case. Just want to talk a little bit more about Blade before we end this. So again, like just talking about the how clearly this movie was a disaster. Um, it's just one of those movies where you watch it and you can see every desperate attempt to salvage it, right? To like, it's
Hmm.
shocking. I was shocked to find out there's a unrated cut of this movie. I can't imagine what is in it. Like, I've never seen it, because it feels like this movie barely crosses the line it like needs to in terms of length, right? Like
Yeah.
and there's an entire sequence that is clearly just B-roll footage of Wesley Snipes and they turn it into like a meditation scene. And it just goes every scene, especially any scene involving him, goes on like 30 seconds too long, right? That it's just like we have
Hmm.
to make this last as long as possible. So every scene with his like takes a little bit longer, right? It's just it's kind of shocking to see. Um when I was listening, there was a disaster on that level with like these kinds of movies where it was just like that was the you know what? It might be Rise of Skywalker. Um Rise of
Oh
Skywalker might be
God.
the
Yeah.
last time we've seen with the Carrie Fisher element of it, but like that there's like seven other things going wrong with that movie. Um,
Yeah. Um. That's probably the closest. There's also the Snowman, which
mm,
we talked about. Just in terms of like not having
yeah,
anything to go
but
off
that's
of,
also
you know, like
that's like a
just
low
assembling
it's
footage.
such a low profile movie though, right? Like that was such a like under the radar type
Hmm.
thing. Whereas like I'm talking about like when you just go out on it, like this is your blockbuster release and it's this. Um,
Oh yeah. Then Rise of
it's
Skywalker.
been a minute.
Yeah.
Like it's been a minute since we've had a movie
Um,
actually make it to theaters that was this disastrous, right? Um,
I know people hate this movie, and I don't like it. I don't hate it, but I definitely don't like it. Thor: Love and Thunder, it reeks of like basically being an incomplete film. And it because it is.
is that what went wrong with that movie?
A lot went wrong with it to the point that it is basically an
Uh,
incomplete film.
is it
Yeah.
is that what happened? Like I really don't know. Like I don't know what the story is with it. Um,
The story is someone is having a great time at the party and they don't know when to leave the party.
hmm.
But the sun's coming up and they should really leave to the party and get back home. And they don't leave that party and they can't drive anymore, so they crash.
My read on
And
Thor: Love and Thunder was he does Thor Ragnarok, right? Which
mhm,
uh, more successfully marries two disparate stories together, correct? Um,
yeah.
then he does Jojo Rabbit, which is rewarded for its very big shifts in tone, right? Um,
Mhm,
and he was like, what if I did five times that, both those movies in Thor: Love and Thunder? Because Thor: Love and Thunder feels like he's trying to marry five different stories together with five competing tones. And it feels
yeah.
like he thought he could do that, and it just turns out he couldn't. Um,
Yeah, there is that. I also think it's just like he said like openly that like, oh, it's a better movie than I thought it would be. I gotta give myself credit there. And like I'm not saying that to like dismantle him or
mm,
anything like that. I'm not trying to knock him down a peg. I'm just saying like I think that's a very telling statement. Like, oh yeah, it turned out better than I thought it would. Like it's not like I'm not even talking about just unfinished VFX. I'm talking about like entire scenes having to be truncated and reworked. If I brought up the deleted scenes before, where it's like you can tell the ideas are all in the movie, but they're like for individual moments of dialogue. There's not scenes dedicated to them or whatever, right? Like
mhm.
Thor and Zeus have a scene together in a deleted scene where they're walking down and talking. I don't know where that fits into the finished film,
Yeah, that was the
right?
weird thing, is that like
That
a lot of the deleted scenes, you're like, where do you put this? And it's clear like
yeah,
whatever tape was supposed to be there wasn't there. Um,
yeah. Yeah, or just like they obviously they reshoot a lot because they always plan out for reshoots, right? So I'm sure they just saw the initial cuts, which I'm sure were a disaster, and instead of trying to fix them, make them better, like let's just make everything shorter.
Mhm.
That's what that movie feels like to me. On top of everything else that just didn't work. And again, I'm not a Taika hater. I do want him to come back because I
Yeah,
really loved his stuff.
he's on a bad
It,
run
it's just a
right now.
shame.
He's on a bad
Yeah.
run. So like hopefully he can pull it out. But
Yeah.
um
Nothing would make me happier
mhm.
than that, frankly.
And but I will say I did not get that impression. Like I got the impression obviously that the movie didn't work, right? Like I definitely got that,
Mm.
but I did not get the impression that the production was that disastrous, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
Um so like really uh the only like I'm trying to think like the big movies where you watch and go like something went wrong, right? Like or you
Yeah.
just
I
watch
mean, it is Rise of
it's Rise
Skywalker.
of
You called it
Skywalker
perfectly.
and it's like Suicide Squad the first one, right? Um
Oh, yeah.
which
Yeah.
that really feels like there's always a discussion we're having now where it's like what movie feels like it's from the before times before the pandemic, right? And Suicide Squad really does feel like that, where it's a disaster to a degree that we just wouldn't have now, right? I'm not saying Hollywood
Hmm.
doesn't produce disasters, obviously, but they would not produce a disaster like Suicide Squad. um so
Hmm.
like other than that, I can't think of another movie that hits in such a way, right? Um,
Yeah. Oh, fuck. What are we talking about? There's like. We'll talk about the Sony movies eventually. But, I mean, Morbius is kind of like that. Uh, Madam Web wasn't like that. I'll say that.
yeah,
Madam Web was not like that.
Madam
It's
Web,
just a bad movie.
Madam Web does feel like people making it understood what they were making it, and the studio didn't understand it.
Hmm.
It like that
Yeah.
was honestly the vibe. And Morbius is kind of too boring, honestly. Like Morbius is kind of like generic to a comical degree, right? Like where it's just
Hmm.
like, did you guys start shooting without a script, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like they started shooting without a script, but they had ideas, and that was about as close as they got with it. Um, I guess the other movie, oddly, that I feel like is incoherent but was a major hit was Spider-Man No Way Home.
I
Uh,
didn't want to say it, but yes,
like
I agree.
yeah, like that movie's kind of a mess, and but it was a monster hit. So
Yeah. I mean, everyone fucking crammed up together for over a year
mm,
indoors, and then Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire walk out. That probably would have done something to my lizard brain too. You
mm.
know,
I
like
mean, I watched that movie being like, once we get to that scene, this movie will work, and that didn't happen. So
no, yeah, everyone was wrong.
yeah,
Everyone lied to us.
yeah, it's that's such a bad movie. I feel like we're in a weird era of cinema where like movies come out that like aren't really meant to be watched. Like you're kind of they build into the movies that you're only gonna be like half watching it, right? That
Hmm.
it's a cinema for people who are on their phones watching TikToks or doing other things in the theater while the movie plays, right? And that you
Yeah.
can effortlessly flow in and out of the movie without losing sense of what's going on. Um, and there's enough moments that like will jolt the audience that they can walk away being like, "Yeah, good movie." And a lot of that now is just a person stands in front of a thing and says the thing you know, and you go right, and then you move on. Uh,
But that will die eventually.
oh,
Like it just
yeah,
will.
like that's why I never like any sort of like, oh, the fucking grim portents that this movie makes. It's like everything has an end. Nothing, there's no cultural thing that just sticks forever, right?
Hmm.
Like we were all talking about the death of cinema when fucking Revenge of the Fallen came out. Remember? Like everyone was like,
Yeah.
this is it. Like we're done. We're so fucking done. And now people will defend that movie to a degree, right? Like
Hmm.
it's just that's, and I don't think that's because people will be like, well, that's because our opinions have shifted so negatively. I don't think that. I really don't think it's that we've lowered our standards. I just think that what is bad then isn't what's bad now. And then when that changes, you can kind of appreciate things in a different light, right? And
Hmm.
my guess is always just trying to figure out like what are we going to look back on and be like that was actually good. Like it was poorly received in the time, but it was actually one of the good ones, you know. And my
Hmm.
money's always going to be on Eternals as just being the one that like everyone got wrong. That 10 years from now, people will be like, actually, Eternals is a good example of how to do one of these movies. But aside from that, I don't know.
Eternals. Well, it's not gonna be Blade Trinity. I can tell you
It's
that
definitely not
much.
going to be Blade Trinity. It's definitely not
Yeah.
that. Um, it's going to be don't.
But I get what you're saying. Like in terms of like which of these movies, which of these characters have staying power, which ones had the sort of dexterity to actually reach like an audience that's not just like popular in the zeitgeist. Like what actually means something to
Yeah.
people at the end of all of
Mm.
this. You know. Um.
And
Yeah,
what are we
I
going to
do
look
think there
back
are some
on?
of these that will
Yeah,
persevere.
what are we going to look back on that's going to feel dated, but at the same time, what makes it dated is what makes it interesting, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and we haven't really. It might be funny where I feel like there might be a weird turnaround. There's no guarantee. I can't say for certain, but I feel like we're going to look back on a lot of the Sony Spider-Verse movies better, like Morbius, than we will certain Avengers movies, like MCU movies. We might look back and be like, that was bad in a unique way, as opposed to some of these movies that just feel anonymous, right? Uh,
Hmm.
but we won't know for a little while anyway. Um,
No, no.
Eric Bogosian is
Uh,
in this movie.
oh yeah, he
Again,
is.
another scene that feels like it was desperately tacked on to be like, we have to explain what, like, whatever the original introduction, because the other person is John Michael Higgins, who keeps making appearances on this podcast somehow. Uh, but
Why not?
he's kind of that whole scene feels like. Oh, can anyone figure this out for me? Did they use outtakes from the first two Blade movies in this? There were a couple close up shots of Wesley Snipes that felt like they weren't shot for this movie. That they were shot for a different Blade movie, and then using CGI of its era, they changed the background a little bit, right?
That might be the
I could have
case.
sworn the injection
Honestly,
going into him is a shot from Blade 1. My cat is crying in the background, so you might hear him.
that's
Uh,
all right. Hi, kitty.
eh,
Yeah, that might be the case.
like Logan, you gotta calm down, buddy. Jesus Christ. But he knows we're shit talking his namesake in this episode. But yeah, like, cause like also like when they do that whole like you're drugged Blade, I don't even remember what the fuck that scene's about. Um, he's like you're drugged Blade, and like they start warping the voices. That makes me feel like they dub whatever Wesley Snipes is saying in that scene, and they just didn't want to worry about it having to sound like him. Like,
Oh yeah, no, completely.
like that's where this movie. That's like kind of the only interesting thing about it is watching it, trying to guess like what is this shot, what is that shot, like what was this originally versus what is it in the final product, you know? Um,
Hmm.
and there's so many elements of this which are very much like you can tell this was originally about Blade Blade's internal battle, and then at some point they had to shift it to be like it's about Dracula. And
Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't mention who plays Dracula.
yeah,
It's the great Dominic Purcell.
yeah. Um, yeah, it sure was him. Um,
Did you ever watch Prison
I know
Break?
of Prison Break. I've never watched Prison Break.
Y-
We've brought it up on the
Okay, so
show
I watched.
before. Like, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't remember why.
Um. Well, it's not great, but it was very entertaining. And he played one of the lead characters. They brought it back eventually, and I just never caught up with that reboot season. But he's in it, and he's look. I'm not gonna say he's got like range, but like when he's got like a mode and it's used properly, he's a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
To the point where, because the other co-lead of Prison Break was Wentworth Miller, right? And they had great chemistry in that show. Great chemistry. Such great chemistry that when Wentworth Miller played Captain Cold in The Flash, and they eventually decide to bring in who's the fucking other guy? The not Firestorm. Heatwave.
Oh
They just
yeah.
bring in Dominic Purcell and they team him up. And they get that spin-off show together, Legends of Tomorrow, because their chemistry was that good. So I've always got a big soft spot for Dominic Purcell. He's awful in this movie. Not his fault, but I love this guy. He was a delight in those CW shows, and not so much a delight here. Also, he comes back to life at the end of the movie, I guess, right? Is that what
I have
happens?
no idea what's going on here. There's a couple of moments in the film that just feel like they were just neat ideas that David S. Goyer had laying around, right? Like
Hmm.
he has like you can tell he has a comic book nerd mind. And I think what helped that maybe it's hard to totally criticize him for this movie because it's just not a complete film. But I feel like he takes his stuff more seriously than later directors do. Um, the only one who takes his writing as seriously seems to be Zack Snyder, which is maybe why those movies don't work. But hey, uh, he there's like the whole scene where they go to the like blood farm, and it's a depressingly relevant like kind of nerd concept, right? Of just there's like processing centers that just round up quote unquote like homeless people, and people that the government would rather do without just to be sent to these blood farms, right? And it kind of
Hmm.
helps tie the vampires into this ruling class narrative that they have in the other Blade films. Uh, but it's just it's just kind of an idea that they just throw in there and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Who knows what that was meant to
Yeah.
be in the original cut? Uh, James Remar's
I don't
in
know.
this.
Yeah,
Uh,
James Remar, who's great and only pops up in once in a while now, but
mhm.
great actor. Do you know about the alternate endings to this?
No.
Okay, so in the original version, that's when Dracula shapeshifts into Blade because he could do that, and so Blade can escape, right? And then
Oh yeah, he does that. I
uh
totally forgot that actually happened. Uh,
yeah, and the FBI is gonna do an autopsy, and it's like, oh, look at it's
oh
actually
man, it's
Dracula.
not Blade. Shit, it's just Dracula.
Yeah.
What a dumb
Well, in the
movie.
alternate ending, um, it's still Blade,
Mm,
and then it he like instead of turning back into Dracula, it's just Blade, and he like approaches them like menacingly,
mm.
and then that's it. It's like I guess it's supposed to be like, oh, now Blade is just like full vampire or something. I don't
Mm.
know. Um, again, they're trying to salvage this
Maybe it
shit.
was trying to be an ambiguous
Then
ending, tied into whatever they
maybe.
originally wanted to do. Because movie was kind of pitched as it's going to be the death of Blade. Like I do kind of remember knowing that going in. Like there was some
Mm,
discussion around the movie that Blade died in it. Um,
mm.
but
There's the last alternate ending with the last of the Night Stalkers, Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds. They track down a werewolf to some Asian country and in a casino, and then they fight the werewolf, and it's lit like a sitcom, and then that's like the cut to black.
I guess that would have been to
The
set up for the spin-off that never happened.
Yeah, you should check out that footage. It looks bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's the final thing I want to bring up is that look, David Goyer again. I just kind of went to bat for him as like a screenwriter with
Mhm.
structure and stuff like that. Man cannot shoot a movie. Um, it's just completely like uncinematic. Everything is just completely coverage. There's no coming off of Guillermo del Toro,
Yeah,
one of the most like
that's the problem in terms of like they were following Del Toro. Um,
yeah. And then even the first film, which again I think we both really admire, Stephen Norrington, who was a very like sturdy journeyman director for a second, and then made the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
and has yeah,
um,
and like has never whatever went wrong there, he's never recovered from. Um,
yeah, yeah, um, which is a shame. He hasn't even done like
yeah,
TV,
he hasn't done anything.
so I
He's
don't.
like circled a couple projects, but hasn't done anything. So, um,
Yeah,
who,
and I just don't know. He almost did the original Shang-Chi movie
yeah,
back in like
yeah, back like way, yeah,
2004.
back in that like weird, like the wilderness years that this kind of is for Marvel, right? Of just the
Hmm.
like all the weird ones that kind of come out, including like Daredevil, which we just discussed. Um,
Yeah.
but trying to think if there's anything else really worth discussing. The only other thing is that you know, Blade still has some popularity. I guess that's a bit of a stretch. There's the game Marvel Midnight Suns, which came out a few years ago and has quietly become a fan favorite game. Like people really like it, but it kind of bombed on initial release. It's kind of noted for its commercial um, failure, but I feel like I hear a
Oh
lot of
shoot.
people talking about it. Um, it's a tactical game. It's a strategy game from Firaxis, who do the XCOM and Civ games. Um,
Hmm.
and it's it stars the Midnight Suns, which you're usually made up of Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, Blade. And in the version, it looks like the game version, it's also who the fuck is that? Wolverine. I don't know who the fuck. Whatever. It's
Uh, yeah.
there's a lot of characters. I feel like they started adding more characters in a desperate attempt to make it appeal to a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
But um, it's been very well received by people. I haven't played it, so I can't say for sure, but it's been very well received by people who like those type of games. But it's one of those games where it bombed so hard that they just straight up canceled its like ports to the Nintendo Switch and stuff like
Oh
that.
shit.
Yeah, like that's a very bad sign for a movie's.
Oh, that's a genuine shame.
Yeah, um, but I know people who are like really into video games who like play it a lot. So like to this day. So that's a shame. It feels like there was like a weird. I feel like it was something where it got caught in the post. Remember that Square Enix Avengers game that came out? Do you remember this?
Yeah, everyone was
That
like, "This is
Yeah,
bad."
it was like a live service game, but also like they couldn't decide if they wanted to do their own thing or if they wanted to I don't know what the like they like that was like a real mess. I feel like that tainted the waters so much for
Hmm.
video for like Marvel themed video games that it took them a minute to recover, and now they're finally doing the recent what's the game out right now?
Marvel Rivals,
Marvel
which everyone
Rivals.
and their mother's playing except for me.
Yeah, which I've heard isn't very good, frankly, but it is the one that like finally hit for whatever reason. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, but I even heard like the Square Enix Guardians of the Galaxy game is like really good. It's just no one played it because everyone got so fucking burned by Avengers
yeah,
like
it was.
6 to 9 months before, which obviously, right?
Yeah, that was what I've heard that too. That one's at least because I think that was originally meant to be, which is this is how dumb they are. Like that was at one point going to be another live service type game, which is like, how are you launching two of those? And then
Yeah.
they desperately tried to rework it into a single player game, which I've heard works, but it was just like too little, too late. Like it was too tainted by the Marvel Avengers thing. Um,
Hmm.
there's a couple. There's been like a few of that, which is like feels like they don't like. We're so lucky we got that Spider-Man video game. Like
I know. I
it's just
know.
like had like 2 more years removed, it would have bombed. Like it would have. I mean, it would have
I
been like
know. I
they would have
know.
monkeyed with it and like turned it into like a disaster.
And hey, look, like Spider-Man 2, Insomniac Spider-Man 2, a lot of stuff I'm sure is going to be coming out about the troubled production that had. Again, I've said I love that game. You can still feel the fingerprints of like tampering with that, and stuff's come out about like how originally it was supposed to be longer, and like there's supposed to be a lot more Venom stuff,
Yeah,
and like it's supposed to be like not twice as long, but definitely longer than what it was. Whatever, right? Like we're gonna hear about that. I am a little worried about the third game now. I'll say this: I'm very happy that Insomniac had enough like cachet to like cut and run from their version of that live service Spider-Man game.
yeah.
I don't know if you heard this. They were gonna do one that was gonna be like a Spider-Verse thing, and they were like, "We can't do this. This is too much. Like, it's not gonna work, and no one's gonna fucking play this together.
They dodged
Like, it's not gonna be good enough."
they dodged a bullet. Like they really did.
Yeah.
Because they would have just fucking failed miserably.
Yeah. But speaking of multiplayers and Blade and stuff like that, all I know about Marvel Rivals, apart from like everyone playing it, is that I guess like they're doing like that seasonal story thing, right? Where like, oh, the first season narrative was like something about Dracula's castle or whatever, right?
Mm.
And everyone's like, where's Blade? And it's like, oh, the story I guess was Blade is fighting Dracula somewhere else, right? And then now the new season is like Doctor Doom something, whatever, right? I only know this because I saw a picture of Blade sleeping in like a Wakandan throne room because Black Panther's letting him catch up on rest because he's so tired from fighting Dracula, which I just thought was very sweet
All right.
and like kind of nice. Like, so eventually the players will be able to play as Blade, but right now he's resting because he's tired. Yeah, which is like, all right. And that's the happiest note we could possibly end on for Blade right now
Yeah.
in regards to storytelling.
Yeah.
He's
No.
resting.
Well,
He's catching up on sleep.
this meets the bare minimum definition of what a movie is,
Yeah.
which
And
won't
even that might be a stretch.
be the last time we say that during this retrospective.
Yeah, as soon as next week, because our next episode is, unless something goes wrong, is the Suicide Squads.
Sure.
Both of them.
Although I don't know, my question is when they get released. I think we might release them at different times. So
Oh, right. I guess that one might come out before then.
yeah, we're jumping around to release dates. So we don't even
Okay.
know, we don't know what's next.
Yeah. No, but if that episode came out before this, wow, what a great conversation we had there. And I'm glad I finally got Matt to agree to my takes on the Suicide Squad. And he saw Peacemaker finally.
Oh yeah, I should probably do that before the episode.
Yeah. It's only 8 episodes, they're not long.
Yeah. Really in the mood.
I'm just saying that it helps that they're much better.
I'm sure.
Than a movie I also like.
Very low bar.
Yeah.
Very low bar.
I'll say this. Besides Guardians 2, I think it's the best thing Gunn's done. It might be the best thing Gunn's done.
That's
general,
that's shameful to say.
I'm sorry.
That's very.
You know how much I love Guardians 2.
There's no way that's correct. That's just an
look. I know other
impossibility.
people who didn't like his Suicide Squad, and they felt the same about Peacemaker.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, if that's not up next, you'll see what's next. You're gonna watch and listen to these. You'll see it, Matt. Thanks for joining me.
You fucking worms! You're gonna fucking listen to this shit.
Whoa!
That was.
I don't know where that came from.
That was the tone you just had. You did not hear yourself in the moment, but the way you were talking about the people who listen to our podcasts came across that way.
A little bit. You know what? I apologize. You're not worms or sheeple. You're
up,
our beloved listeners.
Wake up, sheeple.
No.
RFK has the documents.
Thank you all for listening.
We've given him all the documents.
Thank you.
He's gonna
rate and subscribe on iTunes. It helps the show. Like us. Give us those 5 stars.
He's going to expose all the blood farms out there. The autism was caused by vampires, apparently.
Oh my god.
We are like 5 days away from that. As a country, that's where we're at. We are 5 days away from vampires are real, according to the Trump administration.
RFK comes out of the podium, and I just wanted to say I think our country needs more daywalkers.
It sounds like that because he keeps getting strep throat. He doesn't do anything.
Is that why?
Do you think he just because that's one of those things where I'm like, does this guy practice what he preaches? Right? It feels like he might.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where it feels like he might actually be that crazy. He's there's obviously a lot of reason to worry about what he's doing, but I'm also he might genuinely think he's going to uncover the autism conspiracy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's faking that. And so he's not just going to make something up. It turns out he's actually...
We have to keep the Draculas out of our schools.
He's gonna... It's something like that feels like we're just days away from it getting revealed. The
banjo and guitar players, they welcome sin into their lives when they play their devil music. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, we just have an administration
He's
of
telling
guys...
Sammy not to play the blues.
We have an administration of guys who are on, insane drugs because they don't trust traditional medicine, but it's making them all loopy. They're all going insane. They watch a movie, and they can't distinguish reality from what they just saw, so it bleeds into their speeches. And then because no one can contradict them, it just becomes national policy.
Look, we might live in hell, but I am glad to still be doing the show with you, Matt Garingo.
Fuck you.
All right, where can the people find you?
I'm on Blue Sky at Emperor OTN. I guess I'm technically still on Twitter, but who gives a shit?
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, I'm also on Blue Sky, but mostly on the Waffle Press account there.
Mm.
Yeah, links down to everything else below. Please like and subscribe. Rate us on iTunes, Spotify. You know the drill. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone sticking around for this. I actually, I'll tell you, Matt, and then I'll sign off. I actually had people ask when the retrospective is coming back on multiple occasions. And I told a couple of them that we were recording today, and including our friend Max Deering, who was very excited about us getting back to it.
You all are out of your fucking minds. I love you.
And we wouldn't have it any other way.
We talk way too long about movies without ever staying on topic.
I think we were pretty good today, though.
We did pretty good, all things considered. We did talk about Sinners for a good half of the podcast.
Yeah, well, if you get the chance to talk about Sinners, you should talk about Sinners.
But yeah, we're like the least essential podcast in terms of the movies we discuss. Like, if you're like...
No, I've heard certain people like who are paid very well for actually podcasting professionally. We're better than them. Like, I feel very comfortable saying that. So.
I think, yeah, but like that's like those are people that like they have another agenda when they release their podcasts.
Sure. Yeah, we're not trying to get you to subscribe to our like weird protein pills or something.
We should totally make that pivot, though.
No, we should
100%. Like we gotta make something that like just won't do anything to your body, and just be like, take it. And then they'll be like, "What does it do?" And you're just like, "Don't ask. Like, just take it. Just drink it. Put it in your water and drink it. Just shut the fuck up. We'll make no claims."
You know, we should actually get into is getting those like those little powder packets that like flavor your water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like do that, but like don't have it add any flavor. Just make it like food dye coloring.
Well, didn't they just ban food dye from like everything?
Did they?
Like that was RFK's like kind of good thing he did to try and mask what he's trying to do with like autism and stuff. Like, they announced it on the same day. But again, I genuinely don't know if RFK is a grifter or if he is insane and actually believes that stuff. Like
I'm willing to bet it's both.
Yeah.
He's a grifter, but then also believes like the worst shit he's preaching.
They actually talk about how a lot of con men, which I guess technically I can't say RFK is, but a lot of con men at a certain point they start believing what they're selling. Like they know, like when they start, they know they're lying, but the longer they do it, you have to believe the lie. Like you're too invested in it. So like it's a certain psychological effect that happens. It's like a lot of psychics know they aren't psychics when they start. Like they know they're faking it, but they start to genuinely believe it the longer they do it.
That's a little sad.
It's it's the human mind will fuck yourself up. It's like all our minds are these fucking time bombs that are ready to turn on us at any moment. Like we are so much more easy to manipulate than we all realize. Like we basically know through advertising that we can really deprogram the human brain in scary ways. And it's just something that's sitting out there. But hey, keep that in mind before you vote Bucky into office.
Oh yeah.
See, I brought it back to Super.
Yeah, he is running for office.
He was running for senator even though he canonically assassinated JFK and the leader of Wakanda.
Oh my god! Yeah, he's killed 2 world leaders at least.
Yeah, at a minimum. We know there's definitely more.
We have been professionally unprofessional.
Fuck off.